You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 26th day of September, 2024. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. First one is our live training room. It's 2 hours, but that one is reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1-week free trial. If you have not taken your 1-week free trial, go to mytradingiq.com. At the very top of the page, there's a link. You can't miss it. 5-day free trial, no credit card required. Click the purple button, fill out the registration form, hit submit, and we'll do our very best to get your desktop set up today, get your indicators indicating today. Your trial will officially start tomorrow, but tomorrow's Friday. That's only one day. But your trial will run all the way through next Friday. In other words, it doesn't matter what day of the week or weekend or hour of the day you sign up for the trial, you always get 5 consecutive trading days, even if it stretches over a weekend or a holiday. And there are markets that trade over the weekend, and it's also a couple days for you to kind of get familiar with the indicators. Now, when the live training room ends each day, we take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth, an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com, scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click that link, fill out that 30-second registration form, and you're done. Going forward, what will happen is every trading day, about an hour before this broadcast starts, you'll get an email. In the email, there's a link. At 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it will automatically log you into our platform. The benefit there is you'll have access to the question box so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days when you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're just busy. Can't join live, but you do want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel. And it's easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day, as we're doing right now on our YouTube channel, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,600 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. youtube.com This is our daily schedule. We start out with our devotional, word of prayer, some global news, some market news, a recap of the alerts, both the logic and concierge. And then normally, about 50 minutes into the broadcast, Michael joins us, gives us a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. And then we do some live trading on the TradingView platform for about a half an hour. And then I wrap things up with our good word for the day. Michael, unfortunately, has COVID, so he may or may not be able to join us today for the afternoon broadcast. He said he would send me a message in Telegram and give me a heads up, whether it's a yay or a nay. So until I hear from him, we'll consider it a yay, and we'll just get going. Start with our daily devotional. Now, the topic this week for our devotion, it's about the Sermon on the Mount, which is in effect a blueprint for life. This is day 4 of 5. Today's scripture is Matthew 7, verses 1 through 12. And I'm going to share it with you from the Message translation. Starting in verse 1, don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. That critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Do you have the nerve to say, "Let me wash your face for you," when your own face is distorted by contempt? It's this whole traveling roadshow mentality all over again, playing a holier-than-thou part instead of just living your part. Wipe that ugly sneer off your own face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. Don't be flip with the sacred. Banter and silliness give no honor to God. Don't reduce holy mysteries to slogans and bumper stickers. In trying to be relevant, you're only being cute and inviting sacrilege. Don't bargain with God. Be direct. Ask for what you need. This isn't a cat and mouse hide and seek game we're in. If your child asks for bread, do you trick him with sawdust? If he asks for fish, do you scare him with a live snake on his plate? Bad as you are, you wouldn't think of such a thing. You're at least decent to your own children. So don't you think the God who conceived you in love will be even better? Here is a simple rule of thumb guide for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you, then grab the invitation and do it for them. Add up God's law and prophets, and this is what you get. Again, Matthew 7, verses 1 through 12 from the Message translation. Ask, seek, knock. Throughout the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus makes some big and sweeping claims about the kingdom of God and how it can be experienced in our reality. There's perhaps none more bold than what's found in today's reading. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. We find Jesus in these few verses setting our expectations high, making a bold promise that seems too good to be true. Within isolation and through our modern Western view, Jesus seems to be promoting the Father as a heavenly Santa. Simply bring all your heart's shallow desires to Him, and so long as you keep asking, He will give it to you. Hold on for me 1 second. There. Okay. It's official. Michael will not be joining us today. He's feeling pretty rough. He's got a fever, the whole COVID thing. Many of you, probably most of you, have experienced it to some degree or another. If not yourself personally, certainly within your household, immediate family, circle of friends. So here's where we left off. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. We find Jesus in these verses setting our expectations high, making a bold promise that seems too good to be true. Jesus seems to be promoting the Father as a heavenly Santa. Simply bring all your heart's shallow desires to Him, and so long as you keep asking, He will give it to you. I can give countless examples where I've attempted this, as I'm sure many of you have, and every 6-year-old has, to find ourselves having our expectations let down. So perhaps what Jesus is talking about is something else, something that would actually exceed our expectations and give us something greater than we could even ask for. In the broader context of this Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is talking about the coming of heaven to earth, how the Father has chosen a bunch of nobodies, you and me, to be a part of this move in our world. Jesus explains the nature of heaven and what it would take for us to be God's people, and sets some impossible standards. Be careful not to judge. Don't be anxious. Love your enemies. Control your anger. If you've read through the Sermon on the Mount in order, or if you were in the crowd hearing this, you'd be completely overwhelmed and convinced that, yes, being a part of God's kingdom, seeing healing in my family, having God move in my life in tangible ways, would all be too good to be true. This is when Jesus makes that bold claim. Hey, I know this is too much to take on by yourself, but if you want this life, if you want to be renewed, God is a good Father. All you need is to ask, and He will give it to you. When we read these verses, without the rest of the Sermon on the Mount, our expectations flick to shallow wants. If we read the sermon without these verses, we see this life as a dogmatic list of rules to serve a distant kingdom. But when we bring them together, we find our expectations to be exceeded in every way. Jesus' teaching to ask, seek, and knock pushes us away from our selfish desires. It also saves us from needing to perform for God or people's approval And instead, Jesus moves us to know God as our Father. He invites us to the best thing we can have with Him, to share in the joys of His presence, allow Him to renew us, and charge us to go into our world to see heaven invade. It's the marrying of Jesus' commands with coming to the Father even before we've done any good that sees Him give us good things. Join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, as we reflect on these teachings of Jesus in Matthew 7, help us to not judge others, but to extend the grace, love, and understanding that You have shown to us. Teach us to ask, seek, and knock with faith, trusting in Your goodness and mercy. May we treat others as we wish to be treated, showing kindness and compassion in all that we do. We also lift up America to You, Lord. As the presidential election approaches, guide each citizen with wisdom and clarity as they make decisions that will shape the future of our nation. Let there be peace, unity, and respect among all people, regardless of their beliefs or backgrounds. May Your will be done, and may Your light shine brightly in this country. And Lord, we pray for Michael, this COVID, this attack of the enemy. Let it be brief, and let it be gone. We speak this in Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. And happy Thursday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. Start here in the U.S. with cash markets. The indices, as they're called. Starting with the Dow. We're up 250 points. The NASDAQ is up 67. S&P 500 is up 15. And the Russell 2000, our man in the street, is up 21 points. That's almost 1%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down $1.49, trading 68.20 last. That's a drop of over 2%, or $1,490 per contract traded. Gold up $4.70, trading 26.8940 last. Silver up 26 cents, trading 32.28 last. Silver, that's a gain of almost 1%. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei on fire, up 1,055 points, 2.75%. The Shanghai up 104, over 3.5%. The Hang Seng up 795 points, again over 4%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up 16, the DAX up 319, which is 1.75%. The CAC up 176. It's 2.25%. So it was a green day for Asia, a green day for the UK. And so far, it's definitely a green radio Thursday here in the US of A. Let's take a look at some news. There's breaking news this morning. I don't have the full report on it, but New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted on federal criminal charges. Details of the sealed charges are expected to be made public today. A bipartisan Senate committee report surfaced more revelations about Secret Service failures amid the July 13 assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. The report comes the day after the Senate passed a bill requiring an equal standard of Secret Service protection for presidents and major party candidates. The report highlighted the agency's failure to request a surveillance team for the Butler, Pennsylvania event. The agency's anti-drone operator was also found to be inexperienced and unable to deploy the system for hours, preventing notice of the shooter's drone. This guy had had 1 hour of training on this drone, and when he couldn't get it to work, he had to call the toll-free number. And we know what that means. Now, you'd think the Secret Service might have a hotline, right? But no, just the toll-free number, customer service on the side of the box. And incredible that I know that you're as stunned as I am. 2 minutes before the gunman fired, Secret Service officials knew he was on the roof. The committee also recommended an increase in budget. Well, I'd like to know how the money is being spent now. The report coincided with Congress including $230 million in emergency funding for the agency in its latest stopgap bill. I mean, Iran has said, we want to kill Donald Trump. Why hasn't Joe Biden stepped up to the teleprompter and said what Trump has said he should have? Trump said, this is what I would say. If you harm this individual, I will blow your country to smithereens. And they know that Trump would actually do it. It wouldn't be a bluff. Biden hasn't said anything. Maybe that's part of the plan. First attempt failed, the second attempt failed. I mean, the law of averages says eventually, God, I hate to even say this. Well, you know about the law of averages. Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. In Los Angeles, a gunman is in custody after carrying out a metro bus hijacking, killing one person. Officers have not yet named the suspect or identified a motive. Yesterday at 12:45 a.m. local time, police responded to reports of a bus hijacking in South Los Angeles. Officials say the bus driver pressed a panic button after the suspect began pointing his gun at passengers. The button triggered a sign on the bus's exterior flashing emergency and 911 call police. A subsequent police car chase lasted over an hour, with the driver held at gunpoint and officers using spike strips to stop the bus in downtown LA. The suspect was arrested after a standoff. I'm sure there will be a movie and a book to follow. The hijacking comes after LA approved more than $5 million in emergency funding this year to add safety barriers protecting bus drivers from passengers, citing an uptick in assaults. God bless America. I sure need your help, Lord. The U.S. economy, we're told, grew at a 3% annualized pace in the second quarter. Well, when everything costs twice as much, that's not hard to fathom, is it? Guess it just depends on how you look at it. The Bureau of Economic Analysis' third estimate of second quarter U.S. gross domestic product was unchanged from the second estimate, which had shown 3% annualized growth. Economists had estimated the reading to show a growth of 2.9%. Third estimate for second quarter GDP confirms that economic growth was higher than the 1.4% annualized growth seen in the first quarter. The revisions only strengthen our conviction that the U.S. economy will continue to expand at a decent pace over the coming year, which suggests labor market conditions are unlikely to deteriorate from here. How's that possible? 20 million people need a job. Whether it's a regular job or a mob job. From Reuters, the U.S. Department of Justice is investigating Super Microcomputer, which trades under the symbol SMCI and is down 15% on the session. The Wall Street Journal reported today, nearly a month after short seller Hindenburg Research alleged accounting manipulation at the AI server maker. Supermicro shares fell 12% as the report came out, and again, we're now down a little over 15%. The Wall Street Journal report, which cited people familiar with the matter, said the probe was at an early stage and that a prosecutor at a U.S. attorney's office recently contacted people who may be holding relevant information. Will the government shut down? One last bit of pre-election lawmaking is now complete after Congress staved off a shutdown and funded the government for another 3 months. President Joe Biden did have something to say. I want to thank both houses of Congress for this bipartisan agreement and for avoiding a costly government shutdown. Well, come on, they want to keep getting paid, right? Of course they're going to work it out. Don't they always? But the reprieve will be short-lived. The plan now sets up lawmakers to be right back in the middle of multiple spending fights when they return to Washington after voters have their say in November. First up will be another shutdown debate, this time with potentially more fraught politics and a new holiday deadline of December 20th. Soon after that looms another debt ceiling shutdown that could be front and center on Washington's plate in 2025, with the federal debt limit set to be reinstated to open the year, followed by an X date for actual default, likely to follow a few months later. I try to be open-minded, but when I look at the things that one candidate is proposing and compare them to what another candidate is proposing, I can't imagine that any intelligent American would vote for higher taxes, open borders, and so many other things. Their values haven't changed. That's been said over and over. Even on the liberal news shows, they're starting to get blowback. You know, why won't she answer questions? We ask her questions and she gives us this prepared statement. Doesn't even address the question, doesn't answer the question. It's just word salad, word soup. Call it what you will. Anyway, come November, in theory, we'll know who the next president is. American Idol can do it during a commercial break, but it takes us days, weeks, months. Michigan Court of Appeals threw out a manslaughter charge against a Detroit gas station clerk who locked the door before an angry customer shot 3 bystanders, killing one. Prosecutors have argued that clerk Al Hassan Aisha's actions make him criminally responsible. But the appeals court said an involuntary manslaughter charge doesn't fit. It was not reasonably foreseeable that the customer, Samuel McCrae, would pull out a gun and start shooting, the court said yesterday. The clerk was working behind protective glass at 3 a.m. when McCrae's failed attempt to make a $3.80 electronic purchase turned into violence. This happened in May of 2023. Video showed McCrae repeatedly cursing and insisting he was going to leave the gas station with his items, even though the payment wouldn't go through. 3 more people entered before the clerk pushed a button to lock the door, keeping 4 people inside. The door was eventually unlocked, but before anyone could leave, 1 person was fatally shot and 2 more were wounded. Now, if you were that clerk, well, what would you do? I know you suppose it's only $3. A person lost their life and 2 people were shot over $3.80. So, of course, everybody's going to say, well, you should have just let him run off with the stuff. Is that the life we have to live for the rest of our life? The new would-be president says, you know what? If it's less than $1,000, let them have it. And if they get locked up, we got a fund. We'll bail them out. McCrae, meanwhile, faces trial in October. This is the culprit, the one that actually shot people. Faces trial in October on murder and attempted murder charges. So there you have it. That's the news, if you can call it news. Logic 247. It's our 24/7, around the clock, E-mini alert service. Not just E-minis, but also crude and gold and silver and euro and bonds. Over the last 321 weeks, we've issued over 17,900 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a very simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Now, this week, since the markets opened Sunday night, when Valerie did this recap last night at 9 p.m., I don't know if she did a recap this morning. Maybe nothing had changed, but I didn't see it. 35 total alerts issued, still waiting on 10. I'm sure some of those have resolved themselves by now. 25 actionable alerts, of which 5 or 20% would have been stopped out. Again, based on market structure And that simple process that we teach all of our passport holders. Now, the logic alerts are not for you to trade, so you don't have to learn how to trade. They're a tool to help you in the process of learning how to trade. Before you can become a trader, you've got to be able to read a chart. Obviously, a financial chart, whether it's futures or stocks or whatever, it's not words and sentences and paragraphs. It's all about price flow. And over time, you learn to know where to expect resistance, where do we expect support, and that's how price flows from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance. So the logic alerts have an entry price, an initial target that's designed to help you get your goal for the day, then often additional targets, and then a final trade to target. The final trade to target is always the weekly zone above on a long or the weekly zone below on a short. By taking those logic alerts and drawing horizontal lines at each point, between each point from the entry price to the initial target, that's a window of opportunity. And then from that target to the next target, that's a window of opportunity. And from that target to the next target, that's a window of opportunity. You need to learn to be able to look at a 30-minute chart and know with a great deal of certainty what the next high probability move is. So you got to show up, you got to do the work, you got to draw the horizontal lines. But if you do, the reward is the clouds will part. And that chart that looks like chaos or noise will become clarity versus chaos. But again, only if you use them as they're intended. Now, long before we had Logic 247, we had the concierge trade alerts. Now, the logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. But the CTAs are published as a static report shortly after the Globex Open each evening. So we know today's the Thursday session, but it began last night, Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So halfway through the first 30-minute candle, all alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's just the time frame I chose years ago, and it served us very well. So halfway through the first 30-minute candle after the open last night, all of our members and trial members had all of these targets for all these different markets. If you are a member or a trial member, make sure you read and understand this information that comes with the report each evening. If you don't understand any of it, then ask. Okay? That's pretty simple. All right, let's go look at the new all-time historic high on the S&P 500 E-mini futures. The new all-time historic high is 58.30. 58.30. All right, so what we have to do is we click our fibs, then we hover over one of these little guys right here until your cursor turns green. Gotta wait for it to turn green. Hold down the left mouse button, and then just drag up till you get to 53.80. On a daily chart, it's pretty hard to get it right on the money. but we'll try. We'll see how close we can get. It's the number we're shooting for again. 58.30. So we're only 2 ticks off. Okay, that's good enough. But look how quickly it retraced from the high of the day to the not so high of the day. And I've been talking the last couple days about the step line starting to lean to the right. That tells us a couple things. One, that we're approaching a high in the market, and that price will most likely, once that step line crosses blue and climbing, price will retrace back to the BBC. Now, before it can get to the BBC, it's got to overcome potential support at the 50% fib extension. In the daily BBC, the pullback to the BBC holds more often than not. Whether it pulls from below or from above, it holds more often than not, but eventually it will trade through. That, of course, keeps the markets fluid and tradable. But if that wick stands, and let me refresh my chart just to make sure. Yep. That's the deal. 58.30. So remember, we're just 2 ticks off. So as the step line crosses, if we, and this could happen, I mean, that's a big drop. What was it? The high was 58.30 and the low 57.80. So we've had about a 50-point drop. 70-point drop. Yeah, big drop. Okay. Now, the importance of the daily chart, and I hope you all understand this, is that institutional traders, the ones who actually move price, because of their account size and the size they trade in, they move price and they look at daily, weekly, and monthly charts. The way you and I look at 30-minute charts, tick charts, 5-minute charts, range charts. And again, it all has to do with account size. So whether you trade futures or stocks or crypto or Forex or ETFs, if you'll make it part of your daily routine to spend 2 minutes with the daily chart of whatever it is you're about to trade, I think you'll see your trading results change for the better over time. You're getting a free look over the shoulder of the deep pockets that move price. That's a pretty neat trick, except it's not a trick. It's showing you in real time what happened. Big bang today off of that news about the GDP. Yeah. But our traders, they bought it, but they sure didn't hang on to it, did they? It'll be interesting to see where we close the session today. Could we make another run at that high? Yeah, but we're already below this high, 97.5. So as this shrinks, once we get below blue and climbing in the step line, that candle's going to turn red. It's going to have a big tail up here. And what was yesterday's low? 57.68. If we close below 57.68 today, and we're at the low so far is 57.80.75. But if we were to close below the low of yesterday, that would be a bearish engulfing candle. And that is one of the strongest reversal signals that you'll find. So that's not a forecast, simply an observation. On the ES, you can see how this thing rolled over. Okay. Now the vertical line separates today, Thursday, from Wednesday, from Tuesday, here's Monday. When price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support. Back to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, until proven otherwise. Okay? So here's where we opened last night. Right at the BBC. But price quickly turned, or the red and falling, turned to blue and climbing. And it walked us right up to the long target. Now this candle here opened at 57.89 and ran up 4 points to the target. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Then we hit the weekly trading zone, as we did yesterday. We consolidated. When price encounters a weekly zone, 70% of the time you're going to get consolidation. Just like we're getting over here right now. It can look like that, it can look like that, or that, or that. 20% of the time, rejection. 10% of the time, the slice. That's when price slices through a weekly zone on the 30-minute chart, like it's not even there. Now, we were heading towards this weekly trading zone, our highest weekly zone for the week at 58.65/66. Weekly zones are published Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. And once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. Now, once the market ran out of steam, look what happened. The step line crossed. Blue and climbing turned to red and falling. When blue and climbing gets directly above price, that in itself becomes resistance because price is probably, or blue and climbing is probably on its way to turning into red and falling. One obviously bullish, the other bearish. The technical terms, the CFMA1, I just call it blue and climbing, red and falling. Obviously one bullish, the other bearish. And so this zone that we could not break above the last few days, broke above it last night about 9:30. And then the turn came in really pretty much on this candle. This is where we closed back below. Okay. So then we had a push up that failed. That took us to here. And then once we took out that low right there, around 58.02, we dropped to the zone at 96.97. We spiked the zone and came down to the long target, and that became support. That's not uncommon. It's something we see quite often. Now, if price continues lower, take out this low right here, which we already have. Okay, so if you look left, the next major area for support is right here at the bullish cross. That's when the blue line gets above the green line. Green line is the BBC, stands for bull, bear, cross. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and we anticipate higher prices. Price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and anticipate lower prices. BBC, bull, bear, cross. Markets are fractal in nature. You can apply the BBC to any market, any time frame. Daily, weekly, monthly, 30-minute, 5-minute, tech chart, range chart, and anything in between. And it's going to function the same no matter what market you put it on, no matter what time frame you put it on. Price gets above the green line, expect higher prices. Price gets below the green line, expect lower prices. So we came down through the zone and got stopped right there. Okay. Now, remember, we hit the zone, came back, found support at the top of the long target. And right now, we've got wide-ranging consolidation right at the zone. If price does continue to drop, you want to let it get below this area right here. Maybe down to about 57.80. And then you would have a nice 4-point trade down to the short target. But whenever you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area, it will almost always be good support. Not every time, but more often than not. See this bearish cross right here from yesterday? That became that high right there, resistance. But the markets were incredibly bullish, and so an hour later they managed to overcome it. Okay? Happens again and again and again, over and over. Always watch for it on your 30-minute chart. On the YM, here's where we opened last night. Red and falling was directly below price. When that happens, it's probably on its way to becoming blue and climbing, and that's exactly what happened. Once price got up to the BBC, consolidated for an hour and a half, and then we got a leg, a retracement, and a leg up to the next zone, where we consolidated for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And we made a run at the long target. Didn't quite get there. Retracement back to the BBC in the zone. That's support times 2. Support will always send the market looking for resistance, which it found in the area of the bearish cross. Bearish cross led to an extended move. First time price revisits the area. Anticipate resistance. And that's what we got, resistance. Sent us back down, and then we came back up to the zone. And we've hit that zone, we've spiked that zone, but we haven't been able to open and close above the zone. We've got blue and climbing in the picture, but we're printing red candles. I would say that the way the other markets are looking, the Dow's been an outlier quite a bit here lately. We could overcome these highs and make a run at yesterday's high. The other option is we take out this low and this low, basically a double bottom there. And then we got a nice joyride down to this area where the bullish cross happened. Expect that to be support at least the first time down. Second or third time down, may overcome it. But again, you've got support here at the zone, potential support. And then the short target reflects yesterday's low. On the Russell, here's where we open. We're trapped. Got resistance overhead, support below. Blue and climbing walked us right through the BBC, right up to the zone. But these are the zones that were published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Again, once they're published, they don't change. So we consolidated for a couple of hours and then made the rest of the trip up to the long target or yesterday's bearish cross. Right there. See, we spiked it just a little bit and it sent price back down, and then we hit it again and it sent price back down. The price finally overcame it. It took a few attempts, and it typically does. Okay. up to the zone. A little consolidation. We spiked it. We spiked it again. We spiked it. But we didn't take out this high from Tuesday. That high right there. See? That, of course, is a sign of weakness. And that happened off the 10 a.m. news. That sent price all the way down to the BBC, through the BBC. And then the market found support at the bullish cross. See that? It bounced us all the way back above the BBC. We overcame the long target by a little bit, 2 points. And then it's back down to the BBC and back down to the zone. Right now, price is sitting on top of the zone. When price drops to a zone, we expect support till proven otherwise, as in this case right here, where we found support at the bullish cross. On the NQ, here's where we opened last night. We're above the BBC. We've got blue and climbing. Expect prices to move higher, and they did. Took us right up to the long target, and then it kept going and going. This is a little odd here, okay? Step line crossing and then crossing back. That's not normal market behavior. But when the step line crosses like that in a straight line, the market did go in to put in one more high, the high of the session, and then blue and climbing rolled over into red and falling. And where did it take us? Right back to this weekly trading zone. And what do we expect when price drops to a zone? Support, till proven otherwise. Support will always send the market looking for resistance, which we found at red and falling. And now it looks like it wants to push price back down to the zone. We'll see. That appears to be the path of least resistance. So 22.20 down to 22.10. That's $200 per contract traded. Crude oil. Crude having a rough week. We are below the lowest weekly zone. Price dropped to support. Support sent us to resistance. Resistance sent us all the way down to the short target and all the way down to the lowest weekly zone. We did trade below it and we consolidated. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC. And the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Like it did here, and here, and here. And it looks like crude wants to trade lower. 67.45 to 67.35. That would be sufficient to give you your goal for the day. Gold. It's kind of sideways trading last night, but above the BBC, along with blue and climbing, took us right up to the target. This candle opened at, and we'll call it 88, $200 per contract traded. And then we consolidated sideways. This is market structure. Yesterday high, right? This high here. Then we slightly overcame this high. And quickly dropped right back into the area of the high from yesterday. So it made one more push higher, got all the way up to 2708.7. Now these are futures prices, not spot prices. We get a pull back to the BBC. We trade below it. We come very close to the short target. We made it just below this low. What we didn't do is make it to this low. Okay. And so right now we're just consolidating sideways at the long target. Silver opened last night right at the weekly zone. And from 32.15, what was the opening price? We opened the session at 32.11. At 33.11, which we didn't hit, but if we had, that would be $5,000 per contract traded. When the price of silver moves $1, it's worth $5,000 per contract traded. When crude moves $1, that's $1,000 per contract traded. When gold moves $1, that's $100 per contract traded. So we made it through the long target, but we didn't make it to the highest weekly zone, at least not yet. Got back below the BBC, came down to the zone. Support, support, support. Sends us up to resistance. And now it looks like we may be headed back for support. If price takes out this low right here, 32.14 to 32.12, it only takes 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. And then the euro opened the session trapped between resistance and support. Got above the BBC, but not for long. We finally made it up to the zone overhead, and then we retraced back to this zone. We spiked it, and we came back to this zone. Now in this candle here, we sliced through it. This was a green candle all the way up, but as it ran out of steam, price retraced right back to the zone it sliced through, then continued in the direction of the slice. And as you can see over here, we have a bearish cross, and while we spiked that bearish cross, you can see where price is now. And right back to the zone, which we expect to be support. We're still above the BBC. We still have blue and climbing. So it's possible we see another run up to the zone overhead, and possibly even this zone. Still one more zone up there tomorrow. All right. So the daily doesn't look like we've moved a lot. Kind of still sitting in that same spot, but we do have a new all-time historic high. Overcome the 62% fib extension and traded back below it. We overcame it, and then we traded back below it. Where we close today, again, will be very, very important. If we close below where we open today, that's going to create a red candle. Then we'll see what happens when we open tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. To become a member, go to mytradingiq.com. If you have questions, call 949-42-EMINI. Send an email to support@cfrn.net. When you become a passport holder, you'll get 2 hours of live interactive training every trading day. Interactive means you should be trading in your demo account, qualifying to go live, and asking every question that pops into your head. Because the methodology is pretty simple, and it's gotten even simpler. Couple weeks, you'll run out of questions, or you'll go to ask a question and realize you already know the answer. If you want, you can ask it again just to see what the answer is, and no surprise, you'll get the same answer every time you ask that question. That's what a mechanical model is all about. You need to master the mechanical model before you start thinking about discretionary trading. Just got to show up, do the work, ask the questions. Along with 2 hours of live training every day, private one-on-one mentoring, no extra charge. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Futures, stocks, crypto, Forex, ETFs, doesn't matter. Price flows from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. As a passport holder, you get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock. Get the concierge trade alerts every night when they're published, Sunday through Thursday. You get the weekly trading zones Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. And you're able to attend the members only workshop every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you have access to the vault that contains all the previous workshops. I don't think we're going to have a workshop tonight. So feel free to go into the vault, watch last week or the week before, I don't know, there's probably couple hundred. We've been doing them every Thursday night since 2008. They're not all in the vault. Some are still on the original site, but there's plenty to keep you busy. Okay, let's wrap it up with our good word for the day. Last 4 days, we've talked about rebuilding your marriage. Today, our topic is through Christ, you can do it. Do what? Anything. With Christ, all things are possible. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Paul wrote that. Paul believed he could handle whatever life threw at him. Do you believe that too? What are the things that trigger your fear and cause you to say, I could never do that? Suddenly losing a loved one, facing an unexpected illness, having your adult child with 2 toddlers move into your fastidiously clean and tranquil house after you have had an empty nest for years, going on a stringent diet because your life depends on it, putting yourself on a budget to prevent repossession of your home, suddenly having to take care of a disabled elderly parent. Most people have some sort of situation that truly seems impossible to them, something they are unsure that they can handle. The truth is, while some situations may be extremely undesirable or challenging for you, God says you can do whatever you need to do in life. He doesn't say everything will be simple for you. He doesn't promise you will enjoy every little thing you do, but that you can enjoy life in the middle of doing them. How? Through the power of the one who infuses inner strength into you. When you need money, you make a withdrawal from your bank account. When your car is empty, you make a withdrawal from the gas pump. So when life gets overwhelming, pray and make a withdrawal on God's grace, love, strength, power, and guidance. That's our good word for today. Be sure to keep Michael in your prayers. Hopefully he'll be feeling better soon. Sometimes these COVID things can just be over in a day or two, it seems. And Sometimes it can be a little tougher go. He's had it a number of times, so hopefully his body's built up some immunity. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.